Welcome back. This is Rito here, and we are playing on the Wendy character because today we're going to be building a base for Wendy, her father, and probably some other NPCs. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to grab a bunch of materials, and we're probably going to build the base just right over here to the left, and I'll just do a time lapse of the building process. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy. A lot of people mentioned that they wanted to see the build process as a time lapse, so that's what I'm doing here. Before I start any build, I like to sketch and use kind of a graph paper to get the general idea of the size of the base that I want to build. Doing the sketch before I start the build really helps so I don't have to go back and correct mistakes as often. So for the outer walls, I did a combination of ebonstone and palladium columns all painted gray. There's like an alternate pattern that you can do that makes it look really cool. It gives it a nice texture. That's something that I learned from a Khaios tutorial, which has been super helpful, and I've used it in a lot of my builds like the one you see in the showcase videos. For the wood that separates the first and second layer of the house, I used the Dynasty wood, and then I also used that for the base of the roof, and then I used the Dynasty roof blocks painted blue for the roof material. I wanted to capture the 3D look of a roof, and so I made it kind of a rectangular shape, and then the triangle is kind of that front part that would be coming out towards us. So I wanted it to have a little bit more of that illusion, kind of like if you're standing in a neighborhood and you're looking at a house, that's kind of the shape you would see. However, when I was building the roof, I realized that I actually had an even amount of blocks, so I needed to move my wall one block over, because that would allow us to have an odd number on that triangle in the middle, and then it would allow us later on to do the support beams the way I wanted to. So I ended up having to move a whole wall over, but it wasn't too bad. I did also have to kind of redo the roof a little bit. So after that, I started filling in the roof and smoothing out the blocks to make it a nice, smooth, triangular shape. Also, I wanted to mention that I made a build video just like this for the Magnus the Mage tower, the one that I use for showcase videos for 1.4. So definitely check that out. I'll put a link to it at the end of the video. And then I got to work on the foundation. I wanted to dig out a bunch of the dirt under the house and create a stone foundation that looks pretty cool and everything. I also used that dirt to level the ground in front of the house so that we could have kind of a farmland out there. It took a while to find the right wall block options for the foundation. I always find that part a little bit tricky, but I usually bring just a few different types of blocks. I think I ended up using different types of dungeon blocks and some ebonstone. And then I also did kind of a different block under the outer walls to create an illusion of the outer walls continuing to go underground and like kind of a support layer right there. I think that looks pretty cool, and I did that with the Magnus Tower as well. I think it adds a nice detail to the foundation. So next I started doing the background walls, and this part is a lot of trial and error. That's kind of the build process in general, and that's at least my build process. I just try out a bunch of different types of wall options and different patterns and things like that until eventually I start to get, you know, something that gets solidified that I start to like, and then the more and more I get into the build, the easier it is to kind of finish it off. I ended up deciding on 3 rooms for the first floor of the house. I decided on a lounge with kind of a fireplace and a couch and everything, and then a kitchen, and in the middle, a dining room. At this point, I started skipping forward a little bit because the furnishing process took quite some time and it was just a ton of trial and error. so the time lapse really didn't look that good, so I just kind of skipped forward to where I've mostly furnished the house. The next thing I built was the elevator, which I actually made into a well, and I think this turned out pretty cool. I used a similar sort of Evanstone Palladium column combination to make the walls of the well, and then for the top of the well I used different types of fences and living wood, using a hammer to make it smooth and slope to make that roof. Then from there, I continued the bricks and ebonstone and all that down pretty far, but then I started fading it out into the dirt to make it kind of look like, you know, it's fading into the ground there. From there, I just put down all of the different plants, finished off the farm, added the last little details. And here is the final build for Wendy's new farm. So here is the final build for Wendy's house. I may do a few changes to it, but for the most part, it is good to go. We've got our storage room right here with all of our treasure. And then we've got a kind of a display room. Got some swords hanging on the wall and some item displays. And then a place that we can put some old armor and different helmets and hats and stuff. And then here is Wendy's room. She's got, you know, a dresser, bed, piggy bank, loom, just a couple things to decorate the room. And then down here we have the dining room, and then we have the kitchen right here. Got a little keg, a bunch of dishes, and a sink, and all that sort of stuff. And these I wanted to look kind of like cupboards. Then we've got kind of our lounge with a fireplace and a nice little couch, which we can actually sit on the couch, which is pretty sweet. I forgot that we can do that now. We can sit on the chairs. We can do all sorts of stuff with Journey's End. Here's our outdoor crafting station. I like the idea of making this an outdoor station because it just makes sense, you know, a blacksmith kind of working outside. I've never really done this like this before, so here is where we will put our different crafting materials. We got the traveling merchant who just arrived, so let's go see what he's selling. And I'll go ahead and buy an extendo grip as well. Might as well have that. Back to the final build showcase, we've got our little plants over here, and then this is where the farm starts. We've got all of these beautiful roses, which kind of look like tomato plants to me as well. So I thought they looked pretty good. These are all strange plants. And then we've got a bunch of sunflowers, and we've got blueberries, and some tiki torches, and a fence behind it all. And I liked putting, you know, some bushes as well, like these little background bushes. So yeah, that's the first part of the farm. And I wanted to make the farm look a lot more like kind of like a Minecraft farm, because a lot of the farms you see in Terraria are just a bunch of potted plants in lines that kind of go vertically. But I like the feel of it being more of like a natural look to a farm. I love the way the plants move when you walk by them now. Here we've got kind of like an outside gazebo. I don't know if you've seen the type that have kind of the slats where it kind of has the sun come through but not as much. That's kind of what I was going for here. And you can sit on this little bench and kind of look out over the farm. It's pretty cool. And then we have our well right here. This is made with living wood, and I hammered it to make it, you know, like a sharp angle. And then these are wood fences right here, and this is another type of fence material to fill it all in. So the well is actually the entrance to our elevator, which I've also built, and I think that's a pretty cool way to do it. And this is actually the natural spawn point for the map, so I think that's also pretty nice. And we've got our pumpkins over here, and then this nice tree, and then more blueberries. Right here I wanted a place to plant all the different ingredients that we'll need for different types of potions. And so I've got all of these set up so we can put down all of our daybloom seeds and stuff like that. And I wanted to make it look a little bit more like these were planted. So I've got like the grass wall and dirt and that sort of thing to make it look a little bit more natural. And we've got a little park bench here, and it's kind of got a similar sort of gazebo thing. I may end up raising this up a little bit higher because it looks a little short for now, but it's pretty nice. And that's the end of the farm on this side. So I'm really excited about the farm. I think it's turned out pretty good. So I hope you have enjoyed this build video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.